Um, all right, so this quote came to me. I heard it this morning, and I thought it was wonderful. So we've all probably heard the expression, "Where our attention goes, our energy flows," and I love that because it's so simple. But this one was a little bit more refined. It's a quote by Dan Siegel. Where our attention goes, neural firing flows, and neural connections grow. And I think this is really powerful because neuroplasticity and the capacity to adapt and shift and change and grow is forever until the day we die. We don't, have a corner on the market just in our youth, that we get to have this kind of growth in our minds throughout our lives. And that I think the powerful part about it is where our attention goes. Whatever we put our mind to, wherever our thoughts are gravitating toward, that's where this neural firing is really happening in our mind. And we have to be mindful of this because a lot of times this is happening without us being fully aware, and we're developing habits of the mind without our attention, without our consciousness attached to it. Where our attention can go somewhere without our consciousness being aware that that's where our attention is going. So, kind of bringing that attention into the light, and being very mindful about where we're putting our attention, not just in our thinking, but in our actions too, or in our words too. Where are you putting your attention? And is that where you want to have growth in your life, or not? So, can you subtly shift and recognize that where our attention goes, neural firing flows and neural connections grow. So, as you sit up straight and tall and take a moment to get a comfortable seat, contemplate, New Year's resolution or no, it doesn't matter, but contemplate, where is your attention going? Is it where you'd like it to be going? Do you need to do some subtle shifting of the, flourishing garden of your neural connectivity? Do you want to lay down paths very specifically in your neural connections? And what are they? So, as you kind of pay attention to where your mind and energy is going, let's also remember to seep in gratitude, that when we live in the bath of gratitude in our brain and in our body and in our heart space, that so much goodness arises from this. So remember not only to put your attention toward what it is that you want, but to bathe it within gratitude. Notice your breathing. I have a Christmas tree about 4 inches, just maybe a foot from my face, and the pine scent is just so lovely to breathe in. What are you noticing about the smell that you're breathing in right now, or the temperature or the freshness of the air? What are you noticing about the pace and the rhythm of your breathing? Is there a sense of steadiness or constancy, or are you a little rippled and choppy? Do you feel at ease or a little short of breath? What would happen if we directed our attention to our breathing more often? What do you think would occur in the mind and the body? So notice yourself coming into presence. It might take a bit. We don't always just drop right in. So notice if there's turbulence in your mind, in your body, or in your breathing. Just let yourself come patiently into the moment. When you feel ready, let's bring our hands together at our heart. and offer an intention. Intentions are a great way of having consciousness of attention. So, what is your intention today? How can your practice support you in this? Let's release the hands and find our way onto our back. So, as you stretch out and lengthen in the body, have a moment to just fully enjoy being on your back. Such a pleasure to switch positions sometimes from standing or sitting to have a moment of lying down, to notice that. And then when you're comfortable and ready, reach your arms overhead and begin to just open up your side bodies with some good stretching. Notice what's here. You open up through your shoulders, through your ribs, through your hips. Is anything bothering you in your body today that you need to be conscious of and care for? How is your energy level? All right, then let's bring our knees into our chest and let's rock a little bit, swaying from side to side if that's comfy. And then hang on to the knees and let's circle, kind of roll in one direction, roll in another direction, and just notice what you're noticing. What do you feel in your body? And then let's open up your knees away from the middle and bring them back in toward the middle. See what it feels like. Just have your hips open up here a bit. And then right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, and feel your ankles and your feet open up a little bit. You can do some ankle rolls or some wiggling of your toes. Be very mindful to pay attention to your upper body. Can you relax your neck and shoulders? Can you relax your skull? A good squeeze of the knee. And then let's change sides. Left knee and right leg long on the ground, and feel free to roll around and move your ankles again. Breathing well. Open up to a star on the ground. Spread your limbs wide. Maybe roll around in your wrists or your ankles and wiggle your fingers and your toes. And then when you're ready, draw your knees in, pick up your head, notice your spine. Do that one more time. Open up to a big star on the ground. And then exhale and draw your knees in, chin up. Put your head down, put your arms out to the side. Let's windshield wiper our knees a little bit. So feet down, dropping your knees over to one side and then the other. And then, of course, you can always deepen the twist here by lifting one foot off the ground and dropping that knee a little further over. Kind of just find what kind of movement helps you to warm your body a little bit. And then take a moment. We're gonna cross one thigh, right thigh, over left thigh. Draw your knees in. We're gonna get into the hips a little bit today. So just kind of sense, how are your hips doing here? Do you want to have some movement? Do you want to have some stillness? Can you be mindful of keeping your head nice and relaxed on the ground? Slide the right foot onto the left knee, so you turn this into a reverse pigeon pose. And then perhaps a circle. I have my hand on my knee and the other hand on my foot, and I'm kind of circling my hip joint. But maybe you like to be still. Maybe you like to just go left, right. See what kind of movement feels nice. All right, and then release that. And before we do the other side, take your feet on the ground wide, and we're going to internally rotate that right hip. So drop your right knee toward your left foot, pick up your left foot and put it to the outside of the right knee, and just allow a little bit of internal rotation happen here. Breathing well. And then pick up that knee. Let's just do that pose on the second side before the external rotator stretches. So drop the left knee toward the right foot. Pick the right foot up and put it on top of the left knee, outer knee.
and drop that leg down. And of course, you can put a block underneath anywhere you need. Find your breath. Just notice the internal rotation of that left hip joint. And then pick that foot back up. Put 2 feet onto the ground for a moment. And then let's cross the left thigh over the right thigh and draw your knees in toward your chest. A little bit of rocking, a little bit of stillness, a little bit of pulsing. What feels good? There's no right or wrong way to warm up your body. Some people like movement. Some people like to just kind of be still and notice. Typically, a little bit of mobility is a good thing in the beginning, but you follow your instincts. All right, left foot on right knee. And let's grab on somewhere so that you turn this into that reverse pigeon pose. And then any movement that you want, you can rock, you can circle, you can be still. Are you noticing anything different between your left and right sides? Is it typical for you? Is it a pattern that you notice often? Is it something different? All right, and then let's release that. Bring your knees to your chest. We're going to come into happy baby pose. So grab your feet or behind your knees. Draw your knees down toward the ground. Open up the low back, maybe a little bit of rocking here. All right, and then stretch open your limbs to a star again. All right, and then bring your hands down at your sides. Keep your legs wide. And we'll do this. I like the feeling of doing this on wood floor, but you do you where you are. So we're going to first externally rotate all the way from your femur bones. Externally rotate your legs. Drag your heels in like a little drag on the ground. Drag toward your hips. And then internally rotate your femur bones and push your heels out again. And then drag in with an internal rotation, so keep those knees where they are, and then externally rotate your legs once your feet are up toward your hips, and then push your heels on the ground to stretch out, wide legs externally rotated. All right, so we're just going back and forth here to draw our legs in and to draw our legs out, both in internal and in some external rotation. So just notice, if your hips are fatigued, which mine are a little bit right now, then already I'm feeling a little bit of like a crampy feeling in my hip joints. And just pay attention. You don't have to do this to your most extreme range or your most extreme grounding of, dragging the heels, but just wake up some of those smaller stabilizing muscles around the hip joints. All right, and then come to neutral legs and go ahead and rock your legs. So internally and externally rocking. And then rest your legs on the ground. And just notice, pay attention in your mind, don't look yet, but feel into your body when you relax your legs in a neutral way. Do they turn out the same? Do your left and right foot feel the same in space right now? Or do you feel like one foot's turned out more, or one leg is longer, or what are you sensing as far as symmetry and asymmetry in your legs right now? And then try not to move your legs. Take your hands behind your head, okay? And then we're gonna pick up our head and just notice, is the feeling you had in your mind the same as what you're seeing in your legs and your body? All right, so it's always amazing to me where you can feel like one leg's way turned out and then maybe it's not turned out at all. Or just notice how your sense of interoception, perception of the inner world of your body, does it match what it looks like on the outside? Okay, let's go ahead and roll to our side and come up to your hands and your knees. As you find all fours, such a great way to begin time on your mat. Cat-cows are. So let's take some time to move through your spine, to enjoy your spine, to have gratitude for your spine. See if you can link up your breathing with your movements. Notice if there's anything that feels particularly really good, or if there's anything that feels particularly vulnerable in your spine.
So just take some time to get to know how you are today.
Our backs can be, not always the most stable feeling places for a lot of us.
So just pay attention to how things are today.
And then feel free to wag your tail or move your hips around. You don't have to stay. You can keep doing cat cows, but feel free to let your spine move in whatever way it wants to move. How's the breath? Stretch back towards child's pose and walk the hands far out in front of you. And let's pay attention and have some gratitude for just the sheer level of embodiment. Not, am I getting flexible or strong or stable or whatever, but just this sense of embodiment. Notice how when you pay attention and you move joints and open up muscles and breathe, that there's a greater sense of embodiment. So let's enjoy what's coming in this land of embodiment. Walk the hands over to one side or the other and take some time to stretch open into the breath. Feeling your shoulders awaken and open, your ribs expand. The other side, if you haven't yet. Notice the breath. One of the blessings of our yoga practice is this sense of kind of resisting ossifying, where we get to stay supple and mobile and free. So notice how each stretch that you take your body into gives you just a little something more available. Let's come back up onto all fours, move your spine around, and let's go ahead and lift one arm up in the air. Exhale and find a twist here. Thread that arm underneath you. Let your head relax. Keep your eyes soft. Let your breath come. Breathing deeply. Melt through the base of the skull. And then inhale. Bring that arm all the way back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground. Let's switch sides. Arm up. Take the arm underneath. Twisting here. Relax into your breath. Notice how this is impacting you. Keep the neck neutral. Inhale, lift that arm all the way up to the air. Let's find our way to a dog pose. So notice right away your hands and your feet, these points of contact. Let's take a little time to knead our feet and hands, to welcome in some awareness in the soles of our feet and the palms of our hands. Feel free to move around. Feel free to be still. Maybe you enjoy some pedaling. Maybe you enjoy your head or your shoulders moving around. Maybe you immediately like to just drop into that sense of yield. Okay, so just how do you like to approach dog pose? Whatever you're doing, be mindful of your breathing. Where your attention goes, neural connections grow, neural pathways open up. So let's feel that grounding. Push through your body and open up your sides, your heart, the backs of your legs. Notice what you're noticing. And then walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. How's your back? Hey, how are your hips? Bend your knees as much as you want. Let your neck dangle. And you can have movement here. You can have stillness. Inhale for a halfway lift, extending through the spine. Keep your hands on blocks for a moment and let's pedal here so we can open up our hips a little bit more thoroughly. So As you drop your right heel down, reach the right hip way back and bend your left knee, and then switch sides. So we're kind of pedaling through our hips here as we open up one side and then open up the other side. So much involved in whatever, quote unquote hips, right? There's a lot to that. All right, let's ground through our feet. Find some steadiness. Bend your knees, float forward again, relax your head. Push off your feet and rise up, bringing the arms to the sky, feeling that extension and length in the body. Open things up. Maybe a back bend's available in your body right now. See what that might feel like. And if you're ready, you can cactus your arms and give a good squeeze to the back of you. And exhale and round in, forearms touch. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, swing the arms around. Interlace your hands behind you. Open up through your chest. Let's take a shoulder stretch here. You can interlace your fingers or grab a strap. Open up through your chest, shoulders back, bend your knees, let your arms leave your spine as you bend over. Heads of the arm bones opening up, let your neck relax. Notice your breath. And relax your arms. Inhale for a halfway lift, extending the spine. Exhale and melt again. Let's step back to a dog pose. Have your hands grounded, have your feet, your toe beds grounded. Can you take a moment to feel the yield and then to push off and lengthen? Let's take our feet wide to the edges of the mat. Maybe a toe turn in so that you feel that release of the inner groins. Pay attention to how this made your pelvic floor and your low belly and your breath feel. Let's neutralize the feet again. Come forward into a plank. Hold that sense of sturdy self. So integrating a lot of the body here. Shoulder blades down, the lats are working, the chest is working, the core is working, glutes, everything's stabilizing. Breathe deeply. All right, and then put your knees down onto the ground and find the ground. Let's roll the shoulders a few times here, loosening them up. And then when you're ready, a full cobra pose, open chest. Exhale. Melt back down. Take your legs wide, toes touching, big toes touching the edge of the mat. Lift up to a cobra here and just notice something different in your hips. Exhale. Melting to come back down. Bring your feet back to neutral. Put your head on your hands, and let's go ahead and windshield wiper our knees left and right. Come back up. Maybe a little cat-cow, maybe a child's pose. See what your body wants. And then find your way to a full dog, stretching and lengthening here. Full breaths. Let's lift the right leg up in the air and stack it open so you feel that generous opening across the front of the hip. Breathe well here. And then put that foot down. Let's switch sides. Left leg up. Stack the left hip. You can bend the knee or straighten, whatever feels good. Breathe into the front of the pelvis. And then square the hips. Foot down onto the ground. Let's walk our feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melting to fold. Relax your neck. Push through your feet. Rising up. Bring the arms to the sky. And then release your hands down. Pause in Tadasana. Let's just notice our stance here. Feet hip width apart. Unlock your knees. Notice your breathing. Full deep inhale. Full complete exhale. All right, we're going to come to our feet to the edges
of our mat and come down to squat. And you can take them a teeny bit wider, a teeny bit narrower, whatever feels good to you. Elbows inside your knees for a moment. And then reach your arms way back. Knit your ribs up into your body. Stretch your fingers away from your crown. Heads of the arm bones lifting. Lift your arms a little higher than your back so your triceps get involved. Ribs up and in. Drop your hips and ground your feet. And then inhale, stand up straight and tall. Exhale, bring your feet closer in. Let's step our left foot back. Right foot in front, finding a lunge here. An open chest. Let's go ahead and bend and straighten the front knee. Move slowly, move with breath. So that you sense in to that openness of your hip flexors, the openness of your hamstrings. Ground yourself in a lunge. Inhale, rising up, crescent lunge when you feel right and ready. Ribs stay integrated in. Feel the lift off of your pelvis. Breathing well. Interlace your hands behind your back. Open up across your chest. Try not to sink into the low back, but lift off the hips. And then release your hands. Back foot comes forward, a deep fold. A halfway lift. Let's step the other foot back. Left foot is in front now, lunging to the side. Open the heart. The hip flexor starts to open in the back body. Let's go ahead and bend and straighten the front knee. Breathing well. A full inhale, a full exhale. Can you be patient and wait for your breath to guide your movements? All right, ground yourself, feel your roots. Inhale, come on up, crescent lunge. Arms can come up, arms can be wide, hands can be down, whatever serves. Breathing in, breathing out. Feel your neck relax. Knit the ribs in and try to come off your hips a little bit. Stay grounded in your feet. Interlace your hands the opposite way. Put the other hand on top. Open across your shoulders. Keep those ribs knitted in. And then release your hands down, dog pose. Full spine, long again. And then walk your feet forward, and we're going to turn wide stance on your mat. Find your breath. Let's turn our toes out a little bit, knees out. Let's go to a squat again, but this time with wide legs. Drop some weight into your feet. Maybe open up your knees with your forearms or your elbows. Breathing well. Okay, come all the way back up to stand, standing star. Arms come up wide. Notice if you're at all dizzy, if that up-down vibe makes you dizzy in any way, always take a moment to squeeze to the midline with your hands or across your thighs if you need. All right, we're going to find some flow through some standing poses. So we'll move a little bit here today. Let's start with our arms up overhead, legs straight. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, Viratu. Inhale. Straighten our arms and legs. One more time. Now we'll stay for a little bit in our Viratu and just notice your posture. Keep your neck and shoulders relaxed. No turtlenecking. Let's drop. Root into your feet. Stretch through your hands. See what it feels like to open up and stabilize with your hips. Track your knee in line with your middle toes. Notice this back leg as it pushed forward. Draw the femur bone back. And let's reverse the warrior, reaching that arm up. Straighten your leg for a moment and find a triangle pose. Hand can come down on the block if you'd like, or on your leg. Notice the back leg, root the heel. Open up across your pelvis. Tailbone reaches toward the back foot, so we're not arching our back. Come back up. Told you we're not going to stay too long in the posture. Today we're going to do some movement. Reach into that reverse triangle pose. All right, we're going to come into Parsvottanasana. And then we're going to float right out into a reverse warrior. And you can do what I'm doing with my arms, or you can do something different with your arms. Now, one of the important things when you're flowing and moving from a pose to another pose is stability. Where is it coming from? Can you feel your core help you? Is there stability in your legs grounding you? How's your breath? Where do you naturally inhale? And where do you naturally exhale? The next time you come to a Parsvottanasana, be here. Stretch into that side body. Root through your feet. And come on up. Bring your legs back to a neutral place. Pause in Tadasana for a moment. Close your eyes or open them, but just sense into this deep grounding. Pay attention. We've done standing poses on one side and not the other. Notice what the difference between your hips feel like. Fill up your breath and empty it. Let's take our legs wide. Okay. Turn your left toes out. So we'll do the same kind of sequencing on this side. So we'll start with some flow of Virabhadrasanas. Arms up overhead. Exhale and come into Vira. Now, move with your breath. Don't move with my breath. I'm breathing rapidly because I'm talking. So it's hard for me to actually do the proper breathing and moving because I'm speaking, but you're not. So just let yourself find your rhythm into your breath. Okay. And then when you're ready, pause in Virabhadrasana. Relax the shoulders, stretch heart to hands, root the feet. Feel that deep work in the hips. Full breaths here. Notice your back femur bone. Is it pushing forward? Do you need to draw it back a little bit? Round through your feet. When you're ready, reverse your warrior here and feel that extension through your side. And then straighten the leg and find your way into triangle pose. Notice your breath. Drop your shoulders away from the ears. Feel the rooting of your feet. A full inhale. Full exhale here. Is there something that you can find that's just interesting? What are you noticing in your body right now? Come all the way back up. Reverse your triangle pose. And now we'll do that flow through a Parsvottanasana. So we'll come into the posture, and then we'll rise up, flow through your arms. They don't have to look like this. Find your flow. Whenever you're moving, there's more likely a chance for you to kind of destabilize. So make sure your legs and your core have got you. How's the rhythm of your breath? Where are you inhaling? Where are you exhaling? There's no right or wrong way to be in these postures. And now, if you're ready, let's stay. Shoulders away from the ears, round through your feet. Open up into the deep length of your side. Be thankful for these strong hips that you've cultivated through years of yoga. Come back up. Let's turn our feet straight, and you can come into Pasrita however you want. Maybe you want to put your hands on blocks. Maybe you'd like to put your head on a block. Maybe your arms want to be overhead like dog pose. Maybe they want to be in line with your feet. Breathing deeply. Engage your quads, so kneecaps up. Turn back to the front of your mat. Let your legs find neutral. Dog pose. Big breath here. Okay, come forward into a plank. Grounding yourself. Feeling that stable core. Root through your index finger mounds a little bit more. And then find your way all the way to your belly. We'll take your legs so they're wide. Toes, big toes touching the edges of your mat. And let's lift just your legs. We'll do this twice. First, toes pointing straight down. I mean, you can point your toes, but your feet are facing, the tops of your feet are facing the ground. And then exhale and release that. And now let's turn our legs out. Inner kneecaps are resting on the ground. Take a deep breath in, lift your legs up here. And notice, do you have that same feeling that one can lift higher? Do you have a discrepancy in your strength pattern here? And then relax. Bring your knees back to neutral and windshield wiper your knees. Remember the importance of that internal rotation of your femur bone too. All right, let's come on up. Come on to all fours. We're gonna have your knees hip width apart. Drop your hips over to the right as far as they will go. Back to center, drop the hips all the way over to the left as far as they will go. And then come into child's pose and just feel that deep compression in the hip joint. Breathe all the way down to your tail. Come on up, and we're going to come into a pigeon pose. But we'll be here for a little bit. Let's try to make sure we have the right support. So whatever you normally take, make sure it's enough so that when you find your way into square hips in this pose, you have enough support for your hips. So let's start with your right leg forward. Of course, you can do a modified version of this and reverse your pigeon pose if you need. And experiment today with pulling your heel a little further away from your pubic bone. So experiment with what's right for your knee, your ankle, your hip, your SI joint. Okay, so we don't ever want to go too far. Okay, so stay within, color within the lines. Okay, so lengthen up through your body. And then we'll exhale and drop ourselves into the depth of pigeon pose. Remember, the head supported is very important. Now, if you always have your heel really close to your pubic bone and you're pulling it a little further out, just notice what your tendency is. Do you tend to drop all your weight into that right hip? Can you balance and get a little weight into the front of the left thigh?
Is there any tension in your hands or in your diaphragm or in the base of the skull or in your jaw or anywhere? Back up, don't come out yet, but just bring your hands onto the ground so that you feel that extension through your spine. We'll come and switch sides. So pigeon pose is kind of our warm-up pose for fire log, which we're going to do next. So as you sit for a moment before you go to the other side, imagine that. How is your seat here? Can you feel a little bit of difference in your hips just from the practice we've already done? And then when you're ready, we'll come to the second side, left legs in front. Do you have enough support? I have a blanket that goes underneath my left hip and my right thigh. Maybe you just need something under your hip, just experiment. But again, try to pull your heel just a little further away from your pubic bone than you might normally do. Find that extension. Of course, you can be in reverse pigeon pose if your hips need that level of support. It's so good to take that pressure off your knee if you need to. Feel the extension. And then when you're ready, come to bring yourself a little further down. Okay? Remember to rest your head on a block or on your hands. And then notice if you've tried to pull away from the posture in some way. Have you tipped to your left hip? Have you hunkered your back? Have you tucked your tail or your sit bones close? See if you can widen the sit bones. Slight anterior tilt to the pelvis. Even the weight left and right through your hips. Extend the spine. Be active through your foot, so try not to just let it be passive. How's your breath? Is there anywhere that tension could release? Notice if you have resistance. What can you do to melt? Notice if you have a desire to get out. What can you do to stay? The breath is your greatest tool for these things. Let's go ahead and find our way out of the posture. Let's come to sit up on the edge of a blanket and just first stretch your legs straight out in front of you and give them a nice little wobble like we did in the beginning of class. All right. So fire log, start sitting crisscross applesauce. Now, there's a few different things you can do here. You can lean back with your hands on the ground, and that will give you a little more space in your hips. Okay. You can start out with your right foot on the ground, lean back, and put your left foot on your right knee. And then just kind of experiment. How does that feel? And if you have a little something more to give, maybe you just sit up a little bit more. Maybe you start to come into fire log where you tuck that right foot underneath. Now stack the two logs of your fire. That means your shins. So our right foot is not tucked up next to our hip. It's underneath our left knee. Now, if you're like this and your back's rounded and your knees are up high, lean back and put your hands back there to support you so your spine is supported. But if you are upright, see what it feels to drop that left knee. All right, open up through your heart. And as always, if you're comfortable and you're like, oh, I have a little something more, then you can do that proprio-neuromuscular facilitation stretch, the PNF stretch, where you put a hand on each sole of the foot. Okay.
and you lean forward with a long spine, press your hands and feet into each other. The feet need to push as much as the hands, and then release and extend your spine and see if you've got a little space to lean forward. Only do this if you can do this with an anterior tilt to the pelvis and a long, spacious spine. If you're all tucked over and rounded trying to do this, it's way better for you to take your hands behind you and keep the spine long and open than to try to mess with going deeper. Okay, so depth is not important. Stability and freedom is what we're looking for always, and breath. Find your way into your breath. Melt into that external rotation of the hips. Bring yourself out, straighten your legs again. Have a moment to just wobble your legs, kind of let the ripples dissipate. Release any tension in your hip joints. And it's kind of amazing what your hip joints are capable of doing. You know, we have so many ranges of motion: flexion, extension, internal rotation, external rotation, abduction, adduction, and then a combination of all of those things. All right, so it's just beautiful how this round bone of our femur bone rolling around in our pelvic bone has such capacity to let us move freely in the world. All right, let's switch sides. So now we're going to do the same thing. Start by leaning back, see what you need. We're going to put our right foot on top of the left knee now. And the thing I forgot to mention earlier is if your foot is very sickled, if you're sitting like this and you're staring at the bottom of your foot, stretch through your big toe and inner heel so that you get rid of your ankle wrinkles. So the pinky toe side of the foot pulls up toward the outer right knee, and the big toe side of the foot pushes away from the inner knee. As much height underneath you as you need to help you tip into that anterior tilt of the pelvis. Lift up through your spine. You could be here, you could be your hands back behind you. You might have your hands on your feet and be doing that PNF stretch where you're pushing hands and feet into each other, engaging all those muscles around your hip, and then releasing them and lengthening your spine forward to go a little deeper. So just find what's right for your body here. If you're all crumpled up and your knees are hiked and your spine is rounded, then get out of the depth and find better stability. Can you relax into your breath? All right. Come out of there and take the soles of the feet together. We're still on the blanket. Hands behind you, soles of the feet together. Drop your knees. Open up the bottom of your feet, Baddha Konasana. Open up through the heart. Spine staying long is really important here. We don't want to, sink into the posture. And then take a block between your feet, the middle width of the block between your feet. Hands behind you to keep your spine open. Drop your knees. Breathing well. Again, notice if one side feels very different from the other. Let's put our feet on top of the block. I like to hold the front of my feet from letting them slide and then lift my chest, but maybe you're holding around your ankles to lift your chest. Breathing deeply. And we could keep going with stacking blocks, but we'll end with just this next one. So turn the block that you were just putting your feet on, turn it wide, and then take another block narrow, and we'll take the 2 feet on the resting on the edges of that first block with the soles of the feet touching the second block. Now try your best to not round the spine. Okay, so hang on somewhere. Your feet your ankles so that you can have support for your spine, and then drop your knees. Drop your knees. Release the blocks, soles of the feet on the ground. And just notice if your Supta, or not your Supta, but your Baddha Konasana feels a little different. Just relax that. Pull your feet out, straighten them again. Bounce your knees, sway your legs, whatever feels good. And then we'll find our way to our back and bring your knees into your chest. And let's just check in. Did your back do okay with all of that? Sometimes when we forget to keep our spine supported, there can be a little challenge. So just notice if that happened to you. Feet onto the ground. And then let's lift your hips over to the right, knees up, drop them to the left. Breathe deeply. Just enjoy that neutral territory in your pelvis. Back up, scoot your hips over to the left, knees come up and drop to the right. Relax your head, turn your head, open across your chest. Then come roll to your right side. Grab onto your left ankle and just stretch your quad here a minute. All that work in the outer hips. Let's make sure our hip flexors and our quads are open. Back to center. Roll to your left, grab your right ankle. Let your whole femur bone draw back, open across your hip, your quad. All right, and then if there's anything else you need, so as you come onto your back, maybe a happy baby pose, maybe a little rocking plow, maybe an internal rotation of your femur bone. So just kind of experiment with what is needed for my body right now. Whatever you're discovering, just notice. One of the blessings of our practice is being very body aware. We start to really pay attention and be an expert on what it is that you're feeling so that you can really trust. If you feel something amiss, you can trust that your intuition is right. All right, now as you prepare for Shavasana, always remember to be warm and without bright lights. So, decreasing the sensing discomforts. You want your sense of touch to not be hot or cold. You want your vision to be soft and neutral. You find your way towards Shavasana. When you get there, remember that we just want to weight ourselves. Imagine a weighted blanket over you. Imagine that your bones are very heavy and they can just sink toward the ground. Full breaths. Let your belly breathe.
Deepen by breathing. Take a moment before you move to bring your awareness into your body and let it rest consciously. And then start to invite a little bit of movement of your fingers, your wrists, your ankles, your toes, getting the edges of your body to find movement. And maybe a big stretch. Take your time coming out of Shavasana. And you're ready to find your way up. Remember to just pause on your side for just a breath. Doesn't have to be a long time. To have that sensing of now I can move my practice into my day. Take it off of my mat and into my day. So as you come to a comfortable seat, notice if your hips are a little fatigued or achy or maybe more open. Let's bring one more time where our attention goes. Our neural firing flows, our neural connections grow, and this can be true for our connections with others as well. So as you put your attention towards someone right now, and see if you can use that attention to feel the connection grow between you and this person, and offer them your attention. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year.